Welcome to a tutorial video on PHP. In this video I'm going to talk about arrays. In programming terminology, an array is a collection of data. It's a way of organizing data and accessing it through its ordered location, sometimes called its index. This will make a little more sense when we look at some examples here. So in PHP, arrays are heterogeneous. That is, they can have different types of data within a single array. When we look at this example here, we see the variable traditional array right here on line 2. We know it's a variable because, as we reviewed in the previous video, it starts with a $sign. So we know this is a variable. So we see we are signing, that is putting some data into this bucket, into this variable. What we're putting in is right here, defined in square brackets, opening and a closing one. And we see 5 different values within this. 1, a whole number, an integer, the string hello, the value 3.4, the value 8, and the value 45. Remember, I mentioned arrays are heterogeneous. That is, we can put different types of values within them. And these are all mixtures of integers and strings and decimals, sometimes called floating points, all within the same array. So we see here we've defined an array. We've also defined its structure. I mentioned at the top of this video that arrays in programming terminology are accessed by their order, sometimes called their index or their position. This is important because when we define an array, it is defined in that exact order. Arrays also start with the 0 position. That is, the first entry is position 0. The second entry is position 1. So we start at 0 and then we increase until there are no more entries, no more indexes or positions. So arrays are ordered. We need to know where things are within the array so we can access them that way. So we see right here on line 5, again, we're using the echo keyword I talked about in the previous video because we want to examine what's in this bucket. However, because arrays are a collection of data and we care about their position, their ordering, we access it through saying, okay, this variable, that is this collection of data, and this position. We access that position through using open and closing square brackets off the end of the variable name. So we're saying right here, get the second value, that is 1, of this array. And we put 1 in here to look at it. Because the first entry is 1, the second entry, or the first entry is the value 1. The second entry is the value hello. And I'm going to run that real quick so we can see this. And notice we accessed hello right here. And we'll talk about the 33 in just a moment. So in arrays, we have an ordered structure, and we access it using its position, or sometimes called its index. So the index right here is 1, and this is the second value, hello. So we can say arrays are a group of data, or a way to group data together. In PHP, they are heterogeneous, so we can put different values within them, and we access them using their position. Well, this is all fairly normal, and in fact very common across programming languages. Where PHP gets a little bit different is it also has associative arrays. This is a way of creating arrays where instead of caring about position, we care about key value pairs. That is, if we want to get to a value, we use its key to get to it. And they're accessed using the keys instead of using their positions. So we see down here on lines 8 through 12 an example of that. I'm using an array function, which I'm going to discuss functions in a future video, but we're creating a new array that is an associative array. And right here we see its key value pairs. So the key Dan points to, notice equal and then greater than, points to the value 33, a comma. The key Jordan points to the value 45. The key Austin points to the value 38. And notice at the end we don't have an extra comma. So a comma between entries, but not a comma at the last entry. So this is now an associative array. So instead of caring about the index or the position or the order of things, we access it, as I discussed earlier, using its key. We supply the key to get the value back. And down here we see that, again, using the echo keyword that we've been using across these to examine the contents of this bucket, of this variable. So we know it's a variable, again, because it has a $sign, and it's associative array. So we're looking at what is the value here. So we're supplying the key Dan to figure out what its value is. And we know right here, because we assigned it, that the key Dan points to the value 33. So we see Dan and we know it's 33. So we run this again and we see hello, which is the second value in traditional array, and 33 right after that, because that is the value associated with the key Dan. So let's review all of this. In the traditional model of arrays used across many different other programming languages, we define array using open and closing square brackets. These are collections of data. In PHP, they are heterogeneous, that is, they contain multiple types of data, and we see this in this example. We have whole numbers, integers, strings, as well as decimal values. Different values, all part of this collection here. We access those values using their position or using their index, which starts at 0. So if we want the first one, we say 0 and on upwards from there. In this example, we wanted the second value, which was 1, and we use it by using the square brackets opening and closing at the end of the variable name. And we know it's a variable because it has a $sign. So the second value, which was hello. When we're dealing with associative arrays, we access those through using key value pairs. So we define them, or we get the data already defined, and we use the keys to get to the values. In this case, we use the key Dan to get to the value 33. Thanks for watching.